When a narcissistic woman twists your words, the first and most essential step is to recognize exactly what's happening, not emotionally, but intellectually. This is where most people lose their footing. They get pulled into defending themselves, clarifying every detail, or proving their innocence, and before they know it, the entire conversation has shifted. She has successfully rewritten the narrative, and you're now fighting to escape a trap she built out of your own words. Recognition breaks that cycle. When you name the manipulation for what it is, the illusion loses power. You see, narcissists operate in the shadows of confusion. They rely on your self-doubt more than their own logic. Their goal isn't understanding, it's control. So when you notice the twist, don't rush to defend yourself. Slow down, breathe, say calmly, "That's not what I said," or "You're changing my words." It's not about convincing her. It's about reaffirming your reality. Because in the narcissist world, truth is flexible, and every conversation is a test of how easily your sense of self can be bent. You must hold your ground not through anger, but through clarity. The moment you see her distortion for what it is, you take back the psychological territory she was trying to occupy. Carl Jung once said that people don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is that moment. Seeing manipulation in real time is an act of consciousness, a refusal to be pulled into someone else's delusion. So when she twists your words, don't fight to be understood. Recognize, name it, and stand still in your truth. Because the moment you stop chasing validation, the narcissist loses her control. Once you've recognized the manipulation, the next step is to reclaim control of the conversation, not by overpowering her, but by withdrawing from the invisible game she's playing. Narcissists thrive on confusion because it gives them a sense of dominance. The more you try to justify yourself or explain your intentions, the more material they have to twist. It's like arguing with smoke. The harder you grasp, the less you hold. Control, in this context, means staying rooted in your own clarity. You don't need to convince her of the truth. You need to remain aligned with it yourself. When she tries to pull you into an argument, resist the urge to respond defensively. Instead, respond with precision and restraint. Say, "That's not what I said," or "You're misinterpreting that." Then stop talking. Silence is your boundary. Narcissists rely on emotional escalation. The moment you raise your voice, plead for understanding, or over-explain, you've given them fuel. Calm, measured speech, on the other hand, disrupts their rhythm. It's unsettling to them because they can't control someone who refuses to play their emotional game. Reclaiming control also means reclaiming your inner state. The narcissist's real power isn't in her words. It's in her ability to provoke a reaction. The instant you let her provoke you, she dictates the emotional tone. So, stay grounded. Breathe. Remember that your calmness is not passivity, it's discipline. Carl Jung often spoke of the need to integrate the shadow, to face manipulation without becoming manipulative yourself. This is that challenge. It's not about winning the argument, it's about maintaining your psychological integrity. When you refuse to be pulled into chaos, you remind her and yourself that your peace is not negotiable. Boundaries are not walls, they are definitions of where you end and another person begins. When dealing with a narcissistic woman, boundaries become more than a form of self-respect. They become survival. Narcissists are experts at testing limits. They push, prod, and provoke until they find the line you're unwilling to defend. And once they find it, they cross it without hesitation. That's why setting boundaries isn't enough. You must enforce them with quiet consistency. When she begins twisting your words, gaslighting, or turning calm discussion into emotional warfare, you have every right to say, "I'm not continuing this conversation if my words keep being distorted." You're not seeking her permission. You're reclaiming your autonomy. Boundaries are not meant to control her. They are meant to protect you. In the narcissist's world, limits feel like rejection because she thrives on unrestricted access to your mind and emotions. But boundaries remind her that access is earned, not entitled. This practice also forces you to confront your own fears, the fear of being misunderstood, of being seen as cold, or of losing connection. But you must remember, peace that depends on constant self-sacrifice isn't peace at all. It's bondage disguised as harmony. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires separation from what seeks to consume us. Boundaries are how we honor that process in relationships. Each time you reinforce a boundary, you teach both yourself and the narcissist a truth, that manipulation cannot coexist with clarity. It might anger her, it might confuse her, but that's not your concern. Your only task is to protect the space where your truth lives. Boundaries aren't barriers to love. They are the architecture of self-worth. When a narcissistic woman distorts your words or invents false narratives, the instinct to defend yourself feels almost irresistible. You want to clarify, to prove your innocence, to make her see the truth. But that impulse, though natural, is exactly what sustains her control. Defending yourself to someone who has already decided to misunderstand you is like pouring water into a sieve. No matter how much effort you give, nothing stays. Narcissists don't argue to resolve, they argue to exhaust. Their accusations aren't meant to reveal truth, but to keep you entangled in their reality. The antidote is not more explanation, it's restraint. When she lies or twists facts, don't chase her story. Calmly state the truth once, that's not accurate, or you're misrepresenting what happened. Then stop. Silence here isn't weakness, it's strategy. The more words you offer, the more ammunition she gains to distort. By refusing to defend every false claim, you strip her of the stage she craves. You shift from being a participant in her performance to an observer of it, and that shift is liberation. Psychologically, this is the act of reclaiming narrative sovereignty. Jung would have seen it as an individuation process, separating your identity from the projections of another. Narcissists project their chaos outward, and if you're not grounded, you'll absorb it as your own. So when you resist defending against lies, you're not ignoring reality, you're preserving it. It takes discipline to choose silence when your integrity feels under attack. But clarity doesn't need to shout, it only needs to stand firm. When you no longer feel the need to defend yourself to the deluded, you've already won. Truth doesn't beg to be believed, it simply endures. Detachment isn't indifference. It's mastery over your own emotional state. When you're dealing with a narcissistic woman, emotional detachment becomes your shield. She thrives on reactions, anger, guilt, defensiveness, even tears. To her, emotion equals control. The more invested you are in proving yourself or seeking fairness, the more leverage she has to manipulate the dynamic. That's why the real power lies not in outsmarting her, but in outcentering her, keeping your emotions aligned with your values, not her provocations. This kind of detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to see the game without playing it. You begin to notice her patterns, the baiting, the blame-shifting, the sudden bursts of emotion designed to pull you back into chaos. Instead of reacting, you observe. You let her words hang in the air without absorbing them. Jung might describe this as becoming conscious of the shadow, seeing manipulation not as an emotional injury, but as a psychological mechanism. You begin to understand that her behavior isn't a reflection of your worth, but a symptom of her emptiness. By detaching emotionally, you move from being a character in her story to being the author of your own. You stop trying to win arguments and start preserving energy. And over time, your calmness becomes disarming. Narcissists feed on chaos, peace starves them. This is not an easy discipline. It requires patience and an unwavering sense of self. But each time you refuse to react, you strengthen your psychological boundaries and reinforce your sovereignty. So when she provokes you, don't rise to meet her chaos. Let your silence, your composure, speak louder than her manipulation. In that stillness she loses control, and you reclaim your freedom. There comes a point when logic no longer serves you, when every attempt at reason turns into another loop in her web. A narcissistic woman doesn't engage to understand, she engages to dominate. She will twist your clarity into confusion, your kindness into weakness, your patience into submission. That's when the most powerful act isn't to explain, argue, or prove, it's to walk away. The ego demands resolution, but wisdom knows when to withdraw. Walking away isn't surrender, it's a declaration that your energy is sacred. Narcissists feed on reaction, attention, frustration, even silence used as tension. But when you leave the conversation entirely, when you no longer give them a stage, their performance collapses. The need to have the last word, the final validation, that's what keeps you bound. The moment you realize you don't need to win, you're already free. Jung believed that detachment from illusion is a form of awakening. By stepping back, you aren't abandoning the situation. You're choosing to no longer participate in the distortion. You're observing the cycle without being consumed by it. That's consciousness in its purest form, the ability to see without reacting, to understand without absorbing. So when you reach that point where the conversation becomes circular, when truth no longer matters and peace feels impossible, remember, exit is the highest expression of self-respect. You cannot heal in the same place that keeps wounding you. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can say is nothing at all. Leave her words behind like echoes fading in the distance, and return to the stillness of your own mind, because in that silence you don't lose, you transcend.